What's going on, everybody? Kim Becker and Ryan Blackburn here with your weekly AMA for the Denver Nuggets, who are sitting atop the West, Ryan, playing pretty good basketball right now. Of course, Nikola Jokic making all kinds of numbers that are just at the top of this league. So really exciting to see. We have a lot of questions from fans to get to. A lot of people want to know kind of your thoughts on where this team is, where you thought they would be at the beginning of the year, and what we can look towards in the future. So really, let's just kind of get your thoughts on, Neil had a great question, pretty much just what we stated. What are your thoughts at this point of the season compared to where you thought this team would be at the beginning of the year, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I predicted this team to win about 56 to 58 games or so, just in that general range. I thought that they would be really good. I didn't realize that the rest of the Western Conference would be kind of average or mid. That has really changed the calculus in terms of where Denver is in comparison to them. But I think they're just a really great team. And the way that they got to this point was a little bit roundabout. Obviously, with Michael Porter coming back, Jamal Murray coming back, things were a little bit slower at the beginning. Denver had to work in a bunch of new players into their rotation in order to develop some chemistry. But I think now what you're seeing just in the month of January, Denver went 12-4. Ever since basically December 16th or so, they've lost, I think, 6 games. It has been a really great run for this Nuggets team, and they found their stride. They found what they needed to find in order to become that next level contender. I think they're seen as the top team in the West right now. I think there's, just by record for sure, but even with the Warriors struggling, with Memphis kind of struggling lately, I don't think there's another team that has really stepped up to the plate to challenge Denver. And that's a really exciting thing for the Nuggets. They are kind of by themselves right now in terms of who believes in this team to be able to get out of the Western Conference. And once you get to the NBA Finals, anything can happen. So it's been really impressive. I'm very happy to be covering this team at this time.
Yeah, they were 12-4 in the month of January. Both Coach Malone and Nikola Jokic got accolades for being the player of the month and the coach of the month in the Western Conference last month for January. So exciting things. They had a really good run there. They're hoping that, we can continue that. I hope that we can continue that for you as well. But of course, a lot of rumors swirling around Bones Hyland and the status of this rumored possible trade here. So can you give us the latest update on Bones?
Yeah, at this stage, I think the Nuggets have moved in the direction where they are looking to trade Bones. Things have spiraled over the course of these last few weeks. It wasn't necessarily there have been some things going on behind the scenes that you don't know how much to read into, because you've got some strong personalities behind the scenes. You've got players that really want to play. You've got coaches that want you to play a certain way. And I think Malone and the rest of the coaching staff and Bones have just kind of clashed a little bit on what the team has needed, what Bones has to do in order to fit into what the Nuggets are doing. And at this stage, I think it's crossed a point of really no return. It's hard to say that because obviously things can change, and this isn't necessarily like a bad blood kind of thing. It's just, I think every party thinks that it's best to go different directions right now. And to be surprised, I'm okay with it. I think that this is something where Denver, they've got to win a title. They are going for that. Bones is at the stage in his development where he is going to make mistakes as a young player with the ball in his hands, learning how to play the game at the NBA level. And he's always going to be kind of behind the 8 ball in that when it comes to contributing to a championship contender. So it's not anybody's fault. It just has kind of devolved into a situation where the Nuggets are looking for somebody a little bit more reliable, and Bones is looking for more playing time and more consistency in his role going forward.
Yeah, makes sense on both sides, really. Got to do what's best for all parties involved there. Does it make sense to move Bones for another guy that might take Christian Braun's minutes, however? This question is from Jordan Scott.
Yeah, I think Jordan hit the nail on the head here. It is really tough to figure out the bench rotation right now. I think Bruce Brown is somebody that has stepped into his role and been very good. KCP has been very good when he is staggering with the bench. Aaron Gordon will do it on occasion. But in terms of actual bench guys, I think there have only been really 3 lately that I trust consistently, and that's Bruce Brown, Zeke Naji, and Christian Braun. Vlatko Čančar might be there somewhere, but he hasn't played a ton lately, except for last night's game. I think that Christian Braun's great. I think that he is still a rookie. And I think that those things are kind of conflicting within the minds of the coaching staff, within the minds of just the general reliability of these guys. Christian Braun is somebody that everybody thinks and really believes in, but there's always room to add more talent. And I think that Denver could definitely benefit from just adding somebody else. Even if it is somebody who takes a little bit of Christian Braun's minutes, even if it's somebody who maybe plays over him in a game 6 or a game 7 of a playoff series where you really need that win, Christian Braun's going to get opportunities going forward. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I have to imagine that if Denver wants to win a title, they just need as many good players and good players that fit as possible. Christian Braun gives them another option. But if they do add somebody in place of Bones that kind of plays over Christian Braun, I'm not sweating it because the team is really good.
Yeah, and I think they do want to win a title. I think it's kind of all or nothing this season with looking at where they're at right now. So makes sense there. Okay, this next question from Matthew. What are the odds that other Nuggets players besides Bones gets moved at the trade deadline?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because I think fans have heard a lot about Bones, and that's obviously the most likely domino to fall at this point. But other guys, I think that Denver is a little bit loath to give up other players because of the way that the team has played together, because of the chemistry of the group, because of the consistency that this group has played with over the course of these last couple of weeks and couple months here. In my mind, I think the guys that are next most likely to move after Bones Hyland are Jeff Green and Ish Smith, just because they are the easiest contracts to match with if Denver was trying to get somebody that was a bigger contract. Now, Denver does have this $9.1 million traded player exception, so they don't necessarily have to send out matching salary if they need to. But if Denver makes multiple deals and they see an opportunity, let's say to trade Bones for something and then to trade other guys for something else, and you have multiple opportunities to make your team better, then maybe Denver does that. I don't think they really want to rock the boat that much, though, which is why I would say the odds are pretty low of guys like Jeff Green, Ish Smith, even like Zeke Naji. I don't think that those guys are going to get moved, but I'm not going to say outright that it's an impossibility. The starters, Bruce Brown, those guys are off the market. Christian Braun, I think, is pretty much off the market too. Beyond them, there's just not a ton of valuable players in terms of trade value, in terms of what another team could really see going forward as a foundational piece for them. And Denver also doesn't have that many picks anyway. So what Denver does at the trade deadline, I don't think it's going to be that much. I think they're probably just going to move Bones and let that be that.
All right. What do you think about Wright as a trade target?
Yeah, DeLon Wright is, and this comes from Asher, good friend of the program. I think that DeLon Wright would be an interesting fit. He's currently playing for the Washington Wizards and is off of their bench right now. The Wizards have so many interesting veterans, so many interesting pieces that I think the Nuggets would be very interested in. Unfortunately, the Wizards, for them, don't have, I think, the foundational stars like a Murray, like a Jokic, like a Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, that they just don't have those guys in Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis, etc. So you have those other role players kind of around them. A KCP was somebody like that who Denver went to go acquire from the Washington Wizards, and KCP has flourished in Denver. And I think the idea of a DeLon Wright, somebody who's kind of a primary or secondary ball handler off the bench, but mostly is just a guard defender, a versatile, switchable player, a veteran in this league who has seen a lot of playoff action, I think he'd be a great fit. Is it the right deal? Is there going to be enough going to Washington in order to really entice them to do that? I don't know.
Okay.
But to me, it seems like Washington should be going young. That's what they should be doing. Unfortunately, they never do that. So I doubt that DeLon Wright gets moved. But if there was a possibility, then maybe he's a guy that you flip, I don't know, Jeff Green, Ish Smith, and a second-round pick for. Or you flip Bones Hyland for and take DeLon Wright into your traded player exception. So there are ways to get it done. There are ways to do a lot of these different deals. but I guess we're just going to have to see.
I love talking trades, but it always just makes me forget that we're talking about like human beings here. We're talking about what right puzzle piece will fit here. How can you trade this person? It's just like they're human beings. This is their job. This is their life. And we just talk about it like we can move pawns around, which that's how it is. I know. I'm not saying it's not that way. I mean,
no, it's tough. I understand. I totally get it. And I think people have to remember for Bones specifically that he has his livelihood too. Like there's a lot of opportunity for him to make a lot of money, to make an imprint in the NBA. And like he sees himself as a starter. He sees himself as somebody who could really be a star in the league. And so to hold him back from that, it's tough. Like I think Denver has to do what they have to do in order to win, but maybe it makes sense for all parties in that way, and just kind of going their separate directions and making sure that everybody's happy and playing well in the end.
All right. What about the Toronto Raptors? Who from the Raptors would be the best fit for the Nuggets?
Yeah, so the Toronto Raptors are probably, I would say, the preeminent team to really decide what goes on during the trade deadline. They've got guys like OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, who's probably untouchable, but Gary Trent Jr. would be a very interesting fit. I don't think that Denver has the money to get those kinds of players, and they're not really willing to trade any of their starters or Bruce Brown, who are the only big contracts on Denver. So I think you've got to go to their bench. You've got to go to guys that either fit within the traded player exception or are just really small contracts that maybe you could match with Bones. So there are two that really stand out to me, and they're Thaddeus Young and Precious Achiuwa. Very different players. I think, well, I mean, they're very similar in terms of style, but just like Precious Achiuwa is a very young guy. I think he's 23 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And Thaddeus Young, I think, is up in his mid-30s, so much closer to Jeff Green. I think Thaddeus Young would be a very interesting guy to add to this group, just somebody who can run pick and roll with you a little bit, who can switch a little bit and be very capable like that. He's probably a better Jeff Green at this stage in terms of what he would add to a team like Denver. But I like Precious Achiuwa more. I think that he is a guy who is a better defender. I think he has a little bit more athleticism and pop to him right now. He's a better rebounder in general. So if the Nuggets are looking for a match for a Bones Hyland trade, I would look at Bones Hyland for Precious Achiuwa straight up. I think that makes a lot of sense for both teams, and the Nuggets would be a much better defense in general if they added a guy like Achiuwa to their mix.
All right. Garrett says, who gets Jay Crowder? I think he would fit us so well, but I don't think we can realistically make that trade. What do you think?
Yeah, Jay Crowder is going to be a guy who he's been in trade rumors for basically 6 months ever since he decided, I don't really want to play for the Phoenix Suns anymore, which was very weird. There's a really, really odd situation going on up there.
We don't know.
But I do think that Jay Crowder would be good for Denver. I don't think that they have what the Suns would want in return for that. Maybe you could do, I don't know, like Jeff Green, Ish Smith is probably the right combo in terms of salary. But for Denver and well, for Phoenix, they're probably not getting enough value in that deal. Denver would probably do that. I think that Jay Crowder is one of those versatile big wings forward types that can do a little bit of everything, can do some of the dirty work for you, plays pretty good defense, switches, has some veteran savvy, just knows what to do in a lot of different situations. But I don't think that Denver's going to be able to get him. I look at a team like Cleveland where they don't have the player that Jay Crowder is, which is just that connector, 6'8", solid defender kind of player. I think that he makes a lot of sense there. I think that he makes a lot of sense in Milwaukee, in Miami. Those are the three teams that I would guess would be in on Jay Crowder the most. And I think that that's probably where he will go, somewhere in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully it doesn't impact Denver too terribly much.
All right, we're going to pivot a little bit to wrap this one up. I love this question from Fernando. He says, we've talked about a Nuggets trade. We've talked Nuggets trades for a while now. But what potential moves from other teams in the West would concern you for Denver in the playoffs? This is a good one.
Well, Kyrie Irving just requested a trade.
Literally that was very 10 minutes before we hopped on here, huh?
Yeah, that was really good timing by Kyrie. Thank you for giving us all great content. This is That's probably not a big one, but I do think that he could be traded to a team like the Lakers. And if the
Oh,
Lakers
yeah.
were a team that, they move Russell Westbrook and 2 first-round picks in order to go get Kyrie Irving, something like that, then that makes sense, I think, for both sides.
Okay.
And if you have Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis on a team, that team automatically has to be at least respected in a
Right.
first-round playoff matchup
No
with
kidding.
Denver.
Yeah.
Do they have enough in order to really outmatch Denver? I don't know, but it's just a really talented group where that could really change some things and shift some things for a team like the Nuggets. Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby from the Raptors, the aforementioned Raptors, going to a team like Phoenix, I think that would be interesting for Denver to have to deal with if that was a first round or second round series for them. Memphis could also go get OG Anunoby. That would be really tough. Golden State could also go get OG Anunoby. And that would be a very interesting thing where actually I think the more interesting one for Denver would be Memphis, where if you remember, PJ Tucker switched on to Jokic in that game against Joel Embiid, and Philly had a lot of success playing with their rim protector behind a really stout defender. I think Memphis could do something similar, where OG Anunoby is the guy guarding Jokic, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is the guy behind him, kind of being a help side blocker, doing a whole bunch of things just as a rotational defender. There's a lot of ways that a team like Memphis could get better if they so chose. And so if I'm looking at Memphis, I'm looking at Golden State, I'm looking at Phoenix, I'm looking at the Lakers in terms of teams that could actually really try to make that upgrade. And if they did, then it might change some things for how Denver sees those teams in the playoffs. We will see, though. Like, it has to happen. Trades are really hard. As you mentioned, these are human beings, and there's a lot of human beings involved in a lot of these conversations. So it's very difficult sometimes to get a deal done. If it does get done, though, watch out for those teams.
Yeah, no kidding. And hopefully we're still saying watch out for the Denver Nuggets, huh?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Ryan, thank you so much. I appreciate you hopping on here and doing this every Friday. To everybody that sent in questions, thank you so much. Hopefully this team continues on the trajectory they're on. And we have a lot more to talk about as the weeks continue here. So, Ryan, I appreciate you. Have a fantastic weekend. I will see you again next Friday.
Thanks, Kim. Go Nuggets.